What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. Today we're going to be talking about some potential talk between Maple Leafs ownership, management, GM, and some Boston Bruins players potentially. I don't know. We're going to have to look into this. There's been some reports swirling around a little bit more newsworthy than I ended up thinking it was going to be. I was kind of dodging this rumor a little bit because it's so early, but a few media outlets have picked this up and it's become a little bit more interesting. So we're going to get into that right now. So if you guys are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. I tell everybody in these videos, if you don't like me so much, even click dislike and tell me why you don't like me down below. It does help me in the videos. I'm not here to spew hate or to give fake rumors or anything like that. I just give my opinion on rumors that people bring up. I have no inside sources. So let's waste no more time and let's get right into it, because this website called The Fourth Period, and I believe it's pronounced David Pagnotta or Pagnotta. I don't want to be disrespectful, but he does post quite a bit. He was talking about two Bruins players, and one of them being Jake DeBrusk potentially hitting the open market as a free agent in July, and several teams being in need of a physical top six forward will be calling. Suitors will be the Los Angeles Kings, Edmonton Oilers, and Toronto Maple Leafs potentially in the mix. Now, usually when something like this comes out, I go, okay, well, he said potentially, and of course, like, they're going to put the Leafs in there because it gets clicks, but usually you don't just pull this out of nowhere, and especially with guys who have had a pretty decent following like this. There's obviously been some talk that the Maple Leafs are going to be looking at changing up that top six, and there's been a lot of talk about Mitch Marner recently that I will also going to be addressing in another video very soon, but it's looking more and more like the Leafs really want to try to address the fact that they didn't have that power forward scoring touch in the playoffs that they should have had with how much experience and skill now that these guys have. And a guy like Jake DeBrusk is probably the perfect fit. Now, Jake DeBrusk said that he would like to stay with the Bruins, but if the Boston Bruins don't show him the money, then he probably won't stick around. Now, he didn't say the show me the money part, but like, let's be real here. He's a free agent. He's been playing really well. This is when he wants to cash in. So he's only 27, so he fits literally right into the age range of the Maple Leafs. Now, you can see he was making around $4 million last year. He'll probably be getting a boost in pay because he had 50 points and 64 games the previous year and then 40 again this year. And he's proven that he can nearly touch 30 goals. And if he's playing a full 82, he's probably scoring 30 to 35 goals with ease. Now, you can also see he's performed decent in the playoffs. He's had deep playoff runs, a lot of playoff experience with the Bruins, as we know. And the thing about DeBrusk is he's physical, but he's also just an ass. Like, let's be real. Jake DeBrusk is an asshole. And the Maple Leafs need that, but they also need the scoring. And he's bringing both of those things. This is a prime candidate for somebody that could play on the Maple Leafs second line and take a step up potentially, because in a perfect world, the Maple Leafs are more than likely re-signing guys like Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi. And the reason why they're doing that is because Austin Matthews played really well with both of those players. So if Austin Matthews has anything to say about this, both of those guys should be coming back, and I honestly hope they do. It's more likely that Domi comes back than Bertuzzi. So what do? You go out there and get another guy that plays like Bertuzzi, and that's Jake DeBrusk. I would like to have all three of them, and I do believe it's possible, especially if the Leafs trade Mitch Marner. You're going to go out there and you're going to have to get more than a couple pieces to replace that production, but they need to find players that can perform in the playoffs, not just guys that are going to get you to the dance, but guys that can actually perform in the playoffs. And man, Jake DeBrusk is one of those guys that has just pissed me off for years, and that's why I love him. Like, I want this guy on my team. I'm just going to say it right now. Jake DeBrusk is like a top 3 offseason candidate for me. Like, they need this player. He is the perfect fit for what the Leafs need. He's not a perimeter guy that kind of, doesn't find his way to the middle. He's going to find his way in there. He's going to score crappy bang-up goals. He's going to put up points, and he's proven that he can play with top-end players. So if he comes to this team, I think this is a plus for the Maple Leafs. It's just they have to be careful of how much they spend in free agency, because we do know with the cap going up and some teams finding themselves with more cap space, Jake DeBrusk is a player that's going to benefit from that. He's going to go out there and he's going to demand a little bit more money than maybe he was supposed to get. So we'll have to see. Jake DeBrusk would be very interesting, but this one is even more interesting, but a little less likely in my opinion. Now, it's on Ullmark, Linus Ullmark of the Boston Bruins. Now, the thing is with this one is that he's got a 15 no trade list, and it starts on July 1st. He has a 16 no trade list. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. 15 team no trade, and then it goes up to a 16. So basically, the Bruins almost traded Ullmark to the Kings this season, and we all know that. There was big stories about that. But apparently, in addition to the Kings, the Oilers, Leafs, Devils, Red Wings, and Sharks are all expected to try to get him within the next few weeks, which I can't see it happening that soon. I think that the Bruins will probably wait a little bit to see whether or not they want to keep this guy around, because I don't think the Bruins are in a position where they have to trade him. But the other side of it is, how do you convince your team that you trade a guy like Ullmark midseason? Because there's pretty much a good chance that Ullmark doesn't stick around, because Swayman has taken over the starting spot. And if Ullmark wants to be a starter, he can't play with the Bruins because Swayman is that guy now. So there's a lot of different components here, but I want to look at his numbers first. He's 30 years old. He's making $5 million next season, so that's a sweet number for a goaltender. With the Maple Leafs not having Samsonov coming back, he would be an amazing addition to this team. You can see he's been pretty damn consistent for the last how many years. He's been really, really good, probably since the 1920 season. But you look at his playoff numbers, and he's struggled. He's really struggled a little bit. But I do believe that some of that just has to do with the fact that playoff hockey is a little bit tough. And I do know that we kind of have to give goalies a little bit of a break, but I'm not going to deny it. Even if Ullmark just makes the Leafs a fantastic regular season team, and then, Joseph Woll has to play playoff games, again, they can split time. I don't care. It's worked for the Bruins, and I'm okay with that. Ullmark would be a fantastic addition. Now, the only problem is you have to acquire him via trade, and you're kidding yourself if the Bruins won't increase the price for teams around them. And what I mean by that is, let's say Detroit, right? Let's say Toronto, and let's just throw Ottawa in there, right? Let's say any of those teams were acquiring them. And I know Ottawa's a little bit further back, but let's just say that, right? Especially Toronto and Detroit, because they're right there. They're going to increase the price, because this is a guy that they're going to have to face many times during the regular season and then probably in the playoffs. The Bruins don't want to face Ullmark in the playoffs because they know that he's capable of winning hockey games. So they're going to increase the price, and it's a first-round pick plus. Like, Ullmark is going to go for quite some return. Like, it's going to be a big return. This is a bona fide starting goaltender in the NHL. So if I'm the Leafs, I am monitoring that market, and I am checking to see if he's available. But I don't know how quickly you would pull the trigger on something like that without seeing where you could go somewhere else in a trade. Now, there's obviously these big talks that the Maple Leafs should go to Nashville and trade for Saros. They should trade Marner for Saros. Guys, why would the Predators do that? Like, they literally would not be in the playoffs without him. Like, they need him in net. So I don't really know why that trade makes sense. Again, I'll take it. That automatically makes the Leafs a much better team. But Ullmark is probably more in the ballpark of where the Leafs would like to spend. It just is unfortunate that he's a Bruin, because if he was on a team like, I don't know, let's say Arizona, or, well, not Arizona anymore. Let's say he was on a Utah, or if he was on Vegas or somebody on the other side, and the Maple Leafs were like, you know what, let's make a monster trade. Mitch Marner's available. We'll take Ullmark, but we're going to need another really good piece back and maybe a draft pick. We're going to try to make a big trade here. That would maybe make sense. Like, the Leafs getting a top defenseman, like a top 4 guy, and Ullmark plus like a minor prospect, or maybe a 3rd or a 4th round pick in exchange for Mitch Marner and like another minor league player, whatever. Like, you could make that make sense. But with the Bruins, it's like, why would they want to do this with the Maple Leafs? So I'm having a hard time believing that the Maple Leafs would be able to pull off a trade with the Bruins involving a starting goaltender, because they don't want to make the Leafs better. And I mean, potentially what the Leafs give up, they don't want to make the Bruins better, because the Bruins already don't need help, right? And as much as the Leafs don't get it done in the playoffs, they don't need help either, right? So it's just one of these things where I'm not too sure how this could happen and what the pieces would be involved. DeBrusk is a free agent, so it makes more sense. If Ullmark was a free agent, it would make a lot more sense. But if I was to put a percentage on either of these moves happening, I would think DeBrusk is like 60 to 70%. I think that the Leafs should take a run at him. Ullmark, I would say in my head, 80%, like go for him. But I think it's more like a 30-40% chance of happening, and that's still pretty decent. But, you know, I just don't think that they would be able to acquire him. I would even say maybe 15-20%, because they're too close to the Bruins. It just doesn't make sense right now. So I hope we acquire both of these guys, to be completely honest with you. DeBrusk would come in just for salary cap, and Ullmark would come in as a trade. So I wouldn't be against it. It's just, what do you give up to, right? So let me hear what you guys have to say. Make sure to comment it down below. I want to hear from you guys. You guys know I love hearing all about what you guys think about the Toronto Maple Leafs. If you're new here, like I said, like this video and subscribe. Join the squad. I'd love to have you guys here. Go Leafs, go. Leave your comments, and also please leave video suggestions. I do appreciate that. And I'll see you in the next video or stream. Peace.